Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Dream Big Today. My name's Debbie, and this is Monday, May 15th, 2023. I'm so glad you joined us this morning. I hope you had a beautiful weekend. Our weekend was great. We had a lot of rain and a lot of guests. This was my husband's birthday and Mother's Day weekend, of course. And so anyway, I thought I would just start by just showing you a picture of my mom. My mom's been gone for 20 years, but she was born in 1919. And so this picture I have of her is probably taken in the 1930s. And so there is a picture of my mom back in those days. And I just think it's just such a classic, cool picture. And something that I treasure. I have a picture like that of my dad too, but he's been gone even longer. So anyway, I cherish memories of my mom, and I want to be the mom that my girls want to remember as well. And so if you would put your prayer request in the chat box, put your praise reports in the chat box. We like to share that with you. And man, we've got some great reading today. We're going to talk about fear and bravery and courageous things. But I wanted to start with just a tad bit of my devotion. Don't want to do it too long because we got a lot of great reading. But I thought it kind of sounded like some of the Israelites. Dearest Lord Jesus, whenever plans and problems are preoccupying my mind, I need to turn to you and whisper your name. Now, we will read about how problems preoccupied the Israelites' minds that just crippled them. Let me go on just a little more. As I rest in you, and rejoice in your unfailing love, the light of your presence shines upon me. Thank you for watching over me always and loving me eternally, just like your mom loved you eternally. I love you, Jesus, and I trust you to illuminate the way forward, showing me what needs to be done today and what doesn't. See, you don't have to get it all done today. There's things that you're supposed to do tomorrow, not today. Don't try to force something today that's not meant to be. So I'm gonna end on that one so we can get started in Samuel. This is 1 Samuel 17, and we're going to go through maybe 18:4, but that's the plan. And so before I start, no, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I need to read just a little bit before we get too far down the line. 1 Samuel 17:1, the Philistines now mustered their army for battle and camped between Succoth in Judah and Azekah in Ephesdammim. Saul countered by gathering his troops near the valley of Elah. So the Philistines and Israelites faced each other on opposite hills with a valley in between them. Now, can you just imagine standing with a valley between you, and here's a troop over here, and here's a troop, two armies, and they're just glaring and growling at each other. There's an echo in the canyon, I'm sure. And so, that's a thought too. That echo probably made the Israelites even have more fear. Here's Goliath. Goliath is a great big guy. And it talks, the Bible tells us how big he is. And, if we had him on our basketball team, we would win probably every game. Unless if he fell down, and couldn't get back up, we'd win them all. And that would be cool. But it's not really a good do you have to be fair in a game other than good sportsmanship? Size, you have to figure your way around that. And then it talks about his what he wore. He was such a big guy that his stuff weighed a lot, like 125 pounds for his bronze coat. And then he has this spear that the head of it was 15 pounds. Well, I really have never seen a weaver's beam. And so I had to look that up to see what a weaver's beam looked like. And so it's just a beam that's like 2 to 2.5 inches thick and about 5 foot long. So if you can imagine, you got something 5 foot long, and at the end of that is a 15-pound spear looking thing. Hey, that's pretty difficult. Goliath definitely was strong. He was a big guy, and that was probably nothing to him, probably like a feather duster to us, for him to carry something like that. And so he's standing there shouting and taunting to the Israelites, don't everybody come out to fight. I'm the champion, and you're only the servants of Saul. Choose one man to come down here and fight me. And if he kills me, we'll be your slaves. If I kill him, you'll be our slaves. Simple as that. Simple rules. Well, so can you imagine when Goliath is standing up there taunting them, it's echoing through the canyon, and it's like boom, boom, boom every time he says something. My imagination is going wild. He's got this big, deep voice, and it's just crazy whenever he echoes this, and people go into fear and panic. The goosebumps goes over them from head to toe every time that he speaks. And he does this for 40 days, every morning and night. So think about that. 40 days and nights, 80 times, Goliath goes up there, and he is taunting them first thing in the morning. And they're hearing this, and they're cowering down every time. And then at night, before they go to bed, he goes out there and he starts taunting them again, over and over and over. Whenever somebody is telling me over and over and over how weak I am, how you'll never do this, you'll never do that, you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, you know what? After a period of time, do you believe them? I don't know. I would be intimidated, definitely, by Goliath. Then here comes David. Now, David's son of a man named Jesse, comes. Jesse's three oldest sons, Eliab, Abinadab, and Shemaiah, have already joined Saul's army. And so David was the youngest one. He went back and forth so he could help his father and check on brothers. So then Dad sends David to the battleground to see how things are going and give them something to eat. So David goes. Now, as being that armchair quarterback that I can be, I'm thinking, now let's back up. This Goliath was a little boy one time. Why didn't they tell him, you can't just taunt people all the time? You can't be a bully. People that won't like you if you're a bully. Why? I mean, he was little. Even the biggest guy that I've heard about was a normal sized baby and a normal sized child. However, he grew like, crazy and was, I think like 7 feet tall when he was 13. I did have his name, but I don't remember his name now. But the Philistines were warlike people. They were crude. They called them uncircumcised people, but they had advanced technology for that time. And they worshiped Baal. They worshiped the Asherah and Dagon and Astarte, if that's how you say it. But he was once a little boy. Too bad that it had to fall out like this. We have a lot of fears. it doesn't take much for us to have a fear of anything, or at least me. You may be braver than me, but I can let my mind go crazy. And if I'm not thinking Philippians 4:8, then it's out of control. Because, we've talked about, trypanophobia, the fear of needles. Well, we've prayed over me, and I'm not going to have fear of needles anymore. I can go take a flu shot if I want to. But what I thought was funny is, whenever I'm thinking about that this morning, is there a fear of giants? The Israelites apparently had it. And so I looked to see megalophobia. Megalophobia is intense fear of large objects. Isn't that funny? I love that. And so anyway, we get so tuned into our fears, and whatever variation that is, that we tend to give them a name so we can justify why we have that. The Israelites also had phobophobia, and that was extreme fear. Extreme fear, phobophobia. How's that for another one? So as David's going down there with his stuff, oh, here comes the brother. Let me see where he was at. I may be jumping into that too quick. But the oldest brother, was not super happy that he was there. He thought he was just being nosy and curious. Oh, here it is, verse 28. David's oldest brother, Eliab, heard David talking to the men, and he was angry. What are you doing here anyway? Aren't you supposed to be with those few sheep? There's attitude there. It's the big brother. I know about your pride and deceit. You just want to see the battle. And can't you just hear him talking and just getting all in his face? Well, but remember back whenever Samuel came to Jesse to look for a certain son, he passed over Eliab first, and then all of the rest of them. Eliab was probably still resentful that he was the oldest, the wisest, the biggest, the everything est, and he was passed over for the least of all, David. So he's probably still feeling that. And so he's doing his own little intimidation of brothers. See, he had to take out his anxiety on somebody. He couldn't go fight Goliath, but he could pick on somebody there. And don't you know, that's what we see today. The bullies pick on somebody that they can bully. They don't pick on somebody that is bigger and stronger than them, or smarter or wiser. They go for the ones that they can conquer. And that's what Big Brother has done, in my opinion. And so, let's see. And then 29, what have I done now? I was only asking a question. I mean, I can see that conversation taking place, and he just spins around on that heel, and he walks off the other direction, asks somebody else the same thing. And then when he finds out, he says, don't worry about that Philistine. I'll go fight him. Don't be ridiculous, Saul said. There's no way. You're only a boy. Wow, you're only the one that cares for the handful of sheep. You're only the one that we can't afford sandals for, so you have to go barefooted. You're only one that gets the burnt ends of the barbecue. But David persisted, and this is awesome. He gives his resume on what he's done. This is like whenever you have to go in interview. Well, what have you done that will make you will qualify you for the position I'm getting ready to put you in? Well, he says, I've been taking care of my father's sheep and goats. Oh, well, I heard your brother tell you that. Oh, but listen, when a lion or a bear comes to steal a lamb, I go after it. oh man, he doesn't just sit back and watch the other sheep that's still there. He takes action with a club, and he rescues the lamb from its mouth. Oh, and then not only that, if the animal turns on me, he doesn't say, I run as fast as I can and climb a tree. He says, I catch it by the jaw and I club it to death. Verse 36, I have done this to both lions and bears, and I'll do it to this pagan Philistine too, for he has defiled the armies of the living God. Now, this is a boy. This is a young boy. And he is excited. See, he's not staying there in the army line with the brothers and the other people. He goes back and forth. So he's not hearing Goliath taunt everybody 80 times, 40 times. You remember the number 40 represents testing. And so he's testing twice. And all of these people are failing terribly on the courage, the faith, the bravery. Every time Goliath comes out on that hill and he starts telling them how worthless, sorry, and that they're nothing, they look at each other. That's right. That's who we are. We're nothing. We have nothing. We're poor. We're little. The average Israelite at that time, they say, was probably about 5'3". Well, I would stand over them big time too. But you imagine that a 9-foot Goliath looking down at the 5'3" men of that time. Oh my word. That, yes, he's twice the height of them. So it says, I've done that and I'll do it again. Then verse 37, the Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine. This is still baby brother. Never think that because somebody says that they can do something that they can't. God empowers the actions. So now, Saul gave David his own armor, the helmet, the coat, the everything. But you know what? David's not he's a little guy. When he put that on, that would be like my little granddaughter dressing up in my dress-up clothes, putting on my high heels, putting on my dress, my coat, my hat, and it's just dragging on her. She gets my bag to carry, and it just takes her shoulder down. Don't put on somebody else's armor for your battle, because it doesn't fit you. You're not equipped. You're not built to put that on. See, David traded the armor of man for the armor of God. Are you an unshakable believer that can go into battle with the stones of faith? 2 Timothy 1:7 says, for God has not given us a spirit of timidity, but of power and love and discipline. See, David said, I can't do this. I can't wear this. He said, he took them off. And he picked up those little stones, 5 smooth stones, and put them in his shepherd's bags. Now, see, he didn't have a slingshot. They didn't have that then. He just wrapped that in, something that he's going to swing around. It says, then armed only with his shepherd's staff and sling, he started across the valley to fight the Philistine. What a sight. That Philistine is still taunting and looking. He probably doesn't even see David through all of the brush that he's walking through, because he's a little guy. But David is smart. He's got the power of God. He's he's strong in his own right because he's killed bears and lions with his hands, grabbing hold of their beard and getting that lamb out of their mouth. I don't know about you, but that would never be anything I would ever tackle in my whole life. Don't have to. I'll have to see what that fear of scary animals would be. And so Goliath saw this. He walks out and says, "Am I a dog?" Well, you know what? Yeah, well, we some of you have dogs. I've had dogs, and think, well, you could be a pretty dog, but the Greek interpretation of this, "Am I a dog?" isn't nice. It is referring to a male prostitute. "Am I a dog?" he roared. "You come at me with a stick?" And he cursed David by the names of his God. "Come over here, and I will give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals." Man, oh man, has he got, that's the last thing I think he says to him. And David replied, "You come to me with sword, spear, and javelin, but here is the statement of all statements. I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies, the God of the armies of Israel, who you have defied. Today the Lord will conquer you, and I will kill you and cut you off your head. And then I will give the dead bodies of your men to those birds and wild animals, just like you said you'd do to mine." Now, David had faith in action. Courageous faith develops from faith that has been tested. See, he doesn't, the bear and the lion was bigger than him, and they were strong. I'm sure Goliath couldn't have gone and rescued a lamb out of their mouth. He relied on his weapons. Yes, he was big, but you know what? Does a bear care if somebody's big? They'll still attack them. Or a lion? Look at that kind of animals they take down. Conquering faith never forgets past victories. Whenever we go through and we're looking at all of these different giants that we have in our lives right now, giants. Okay, I don't have anything like that, but you know what? There's a giant of insecurity. There's a giant of inferiority. Those are big giants. You can let those two giants walk you down the lane of failure every time. You have to come back. Remember your past victories. Get rid of that doubt. Get rid of everything that is pulling you down today, because that's not who you are. You are a child of God. You have renewed your mind, and you know who you are in him. And this is not a physical battle. This is a spiritual battle. Yes, Nancy says, Joshua 1:9 says, "Be strong and courageous." Remember past victories. So if you have a good memory and if you have sound theology, you're ready to fight. You're ready to fight right now. Whatever that is that you're getting ready to face today, you know what? You can do that. You need to pray. You need to get ready and go for it. And so let's see, on down to 47. "And everyone assembled here will know that the Lord rescues his people, but not with a sword and spear. This is the Lord's battle, and he will give you to us." Now, Goliath has been taunting all 2 times a day for 40 days, testing and wearing them out. Here comes the little guy, and he's telling him, probably in his squeaky voice, because his voice is changing. And he says, "He will give you to us." And he plants a seed. And Goliath probably thinks, never had anybody talk to me like that. Here comes this preteen that thinks that he can say anything he wants to at me. Goliath comes closer to attack this boy. And then David quickly ran out to meet him. Goliath is big, but big doesn't mean fast. David is little, and that can mean super fast. David ran out there, and he probably looked like a bullet shooting out there, and he had his stone and his sling, and he was slinging it. The momentum carried this boy, and he threw that. He threw that and hit the Philistine in the head. The stone sank in, and Goliath stumbled and fell face down on the ground. This sling and stone would have both been useless if the Spirit of God didn't guide the hand of David. We must remember Philippians 2:13. For it is God who is at work in you, both to will and to work for his good pleasure. If you believe your strength is from above and you are determined to actively deploy that strength by the blessing of God, you will overcome Satan's attacks. And so we see right here that Goliath fell down. This is interesting. This is a nugget that I found. Verse 50, so David triumphed over the Philistine only with a sling and a stone, for he had no sword at all. Now, what did he say up there? He said that he was going to cut off his head. Why would he say that? He didn't have a sword. Verse 51, then David ran over and pulled Goliath's sword from his sheath. David used it to kill him and cut off his head. Now, this said the stone hit him and he fell down. But he used the sword to kill him. So it looks like from this, we'll have to ask David when we all go to the heaven. But it looks like he knocked him completely out. He was unconscious. Some versions will say that he killed him, but it's just kind of confusing. This splits it up. And he says, so he fell face down. David goes and pulls that sword out and he kills him and cuts off his head. Wow. And so I had some other points. Remember your past victories. And then next, you conquer fear by realizing your personal assets. See, he didn't fight with the things that Saul gave him because it didn't work. You can't do that. You can't use something else. But you do have to rely on a powerful God. That's who fights our battles for us. I don't care what you're going through today. Pray about what your part of your battle is and what part is God's, because I'm telling you, he's going to say, it's all mine. All I need you to do is believe. Rely on God. What does David do? He came in the name of God. If you're going to slay giants, you need to have a healthy respect for the size of your living God. When God is magnified, fears go away. So what do you think whenever you get a magnifying glass out and you look at something small, this little paper clip in my hand, it's tiny until I magnified. They magnified the Goliath and he got bigger and bigger and bigger. They never looked to see what their God was doing. But you know what? When you are with God, you are the majority in what is going on. So like today, you're going to a school board meeting and you're wanting to change the way things are going at schools. Are you praying up? Do you have your armor on? What sword have you got? This is the sword. Get ready for the battle, and it's spiritual. it's not the it's not in the natural. It appears that way, but you can start praying down all of those demons that's going to be filling in that meeting room. It's the same way with your government, with your nation, with everything that's going on that is a giant that's happening right now. Well, what can you do? You can't go build a wall. You can't go correct anybody. It's not your job. Pray about what is your job and let God take care of the rest. So faith is not a feeling of confidence. It's more so an attitude of dependence on God. So as we read down through the rest of it, I mean, this is a story of victory that belongs to God. I mean, David is the tool that he used. And what a deal about David. I mean, he's a picture of God, of Jesus. I mean, he was the greatest king of Israel, an ancestor of Jesus. He's listed in the Hall of Faith in Hebrews 11. And he's a man described by God himself as a man after his own heart. Yes, he had failures. But look at this. Where did he start? He started out in the battle. He believed, and he never cowered down from that lion. He didn't cower down from that bear. He knew that God went before him. And that's what we need to do today. Don't get all wrapped up in all of the stuff that's going around that you can't explain, because you can't explain it. God's doing stuff in the supernatural that you don't even know. Don't mess it up, because he's got a plan. You've just got a plan like I would have, something I could understand, and my understanding is limited. It is nothing like what he has. And so I'm going to have to stop right there. And I'm pumped. I don't know about you, but to read this story today, and I'm just so fortunate that I got to do the David and Goliath story. I was so excited. And so I'm going to be back at noon to go with my noon nuggets. And I'll just tell you right now, I'm going to do John 8:21-30, and we'll just talk about that at noon today. And I'm so glad that you joined me. And go look in your closet and look and see, do you have somebody else's armor in there or whatever? Get rid of that. That's not yours. It doesn't fit you. It's outdated. It's old-fashioned. Get rid of that. Ask God to put on what you're supposed to have on today. I am so glad you joined me, Jean. It was good to see you, Jan, everybody else that got on here today. I love you, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.